I'm in such a good mood this morning. It's awesome stuff. It's awesome, awesome, awesome. Good morning, everybody. 360 Performance coming at you on a Friday morning, 11 o'clock Mountain Daylight Time. I got to take a breath. Got to take a moment to just take it all in. You know, Fridays are a great day for a lot of people. Some people, it's just the end of the week, and weekend is coming. For me, that represents people who are just the 9-to-5ers. Nothing, no negative about that. That's just what you want. That's what you choose, right? 9 to 5. Am I up? Am I down? Too high? Oh, oop, 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 oop. Well, let's start that again. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Good to have you with me. You know, it's interesting how the day starts on a Friday because people are thinking about it's the weekend, let me get ready for the weekend. And those are folks I typically think about as that stalwart group of laborers that are aware of a rest. They need to renew and rest. Well, we're going to talk about something I hope will influence the renew and rest component of your day. And in doing so, we're going to talk about time management. That's what 360 Performance is about today. Strategies and methods on how to be better at utilizing the time for you so that you don't have to be so excited, still be excited, but not overly excited, that Friday is the end. Oh my God, it's the end. I can't wait to get out of this day. Rather, I'd have you say, man, I can keep going. I got more in me, but I'm ready for the rest. I'll make that more clearly stated to you as we get into the show today. But today, like we do typically every Friday, we talk about a mindset moment. And today the mindset moment is a reminder from the past. It comes to us in this form. I have confidence about my life that comes from standing tall on my own 2 feet. And that's from Jane Fonda. And Jane Fonda is one of my heroes because she has fought battles against forces that weren't appreciative of her femininity, of her beauty, of her family, of her talent, or all of the above. And I can only imagine what it was like to manage her day, to put myself in her spot just for a moment about all the things that would come at me, to be able to just put it in perspective, set up my priorities, make sure that I'm in the right place at the right time, doing what I want to do for me, and then as success came, handle all the naysayers, pulling you off track or attempting to pull you off track, off of your agenda, your priorities, and your plan. We're going to talk about all of those things, priorities, plans, and agendas, to see what it's about, because we're talking about time management. I look at time management in this phrase, beginning with the end in mind, so that we get results for today, in this moment. But to do that for every moment and recognize the results that I have defined for myself in my plan, it takes a plan looking a little long-term. Long-term defined for me on a planning basis is greater than 24 hours. So we're looking at, for me, I'm going to talk about planning for a week at a time. And when do you do that? When you make plans to work your plan, to create ideas within the time frame that you give yourself, to not only understand where does that and when does that time begin after you've written your plan, but what's the finish line look like? What are the outcomes that I'm going to look forward to as examples of success? Look, I don't know of anybody, there's varying degrees of the feeling, but I don't know of anybody who doesn't want to feel appreciated and accomplished. And appreciation and accomplishments go hand in hand. To feel the feeling of appreciation and reward and success, you've got to have accomplishments that you've defined, outcomes that you predefined for yourself. Those are the best ones. Now look, I'm all for being surprised with outcomes that I didn't necessarily plan for myself, but maybe as a result of my behavior, I generated some results that fit where I'm at. That's what we're going to talk about today. Under the umbrella of time management, I'm going to admit to you, it was not, is not, was and is, and for the future, an easy journey to take. I'll have to admit as well, maybe you will as with me, that planning is not a priority for me many times. I consider myself somewhat of a flowed kind of person, a free spirit, if you will, in many regards. But I also have learned over the years there are certain moments when you can't waver from the planning process. You need the discipline. And for many of us, it takes courage and diligence to muster up the energy to apply it to the planning process. For others, really easy. I've got friends and family and my partner and colleagues that are just really, really good at that discipline. And it's so easy for them to do. Those who are great at it make it easy, or make it look like it's easy to do. That's what the greats do. I've known that from just watching elite athletes. Those who accomplish the most amazing feats make it look very, very easy because they're just naturally good at it. And in this particular subject matter, there are many of those who do that. They make time management and making plans, setting priorities, and finishing with the outcomes that they have prescribed for themselves look very, very easy. Well, that being said, good morning, everybody. Again, I want to share with you my level of gratitude. What am I grateful for today? As we try to do every Friday on the show about this time-ish, as much as I don't show what I think about others often enough and frequently enough, I'm really grateful for the people in my world that I have trusted to be there for me, and sometimes without recognizing them with the level of gratitude that I should. Especially with my left leg is doing really good. My knee surgery went amazingly well. All the checkups I've had so far have been good, have gotten good reports. My physical therapist says, believe this or not, he said, I don't need to see you as often. Well, I'm already scheduled. It was an arduous process just to get the PT scheduled, so I'm not giving up my dates. But James has said it's really working well. My quad response is good, so muscles are responding well. I had a little bit of issue with the swelling, and I'm not bringing this up because it's all about me. I'm just letting you know that in managing your time, there are certain things that kind of throw you a curveball, and you've got to adjust and adapt. What was typically your normal method of planning your day and setting priorities has a little bit of change to it, and that has happened with me and this knee injury and the surgery. But my gratitude is for those people who have helped me through it, who have been there for me. Sometimes when I didn't formally ask them to participate, but they did anyway. They saw a need and they reacted to it, and I'm grateful for that. And some of them are strangers. I'm grateful for the people that, I had a young lady, I was going to Starbucks the other day, and I'm at the door, I'm crutching, I'm supposed to put no weight on that left leg, so I'm kind of, wobbling back and forth. And this young lady is running towards the door to help me get it open. And she's halfway there, or I'm halfway through the door, and she sees that I'm still struggling. She says, are you okay? I said, yeah, I got it, I really got it. But just to see that level of effort for me was very gratifying. I really appreciate efforts like that from literally strangers. So take the moments, recognize it when it happens. When gratitude is shared with you, be grateful for when efforts are shown to you from people that you really don't know and didn't expect them to be that supportive of you. Maybe I should use crutches more often, even when I'm healthy. What do you think? Nah, that's fraud, isn't it? It's fraud, I think. But I am very grateful. I'm grateful for the people that have shared with me their energy and support. So, moving on. Today is begin with the end in mind. Make a plan by looking at where you want to be, the desired outcomes you're looking for, and work back from there to create your plan. And we're going to talk about it in a weekly basis. We're going to talk about a number of different things related to the planning process. And the first one is setting priorities. Getting yourself arranged around your plan based on you first. Take care of you first. Now, some of you may be asking yourself when I make that statement, think about you first. Well, but I've got a boss, or I've got working colleagues on a team, or I have a team. Maybe I'm an athlete. I've got to think about them because, you know, I'm a captain of the team, or I'm in a position where certain things will happen coming towards me, and I've got to make sure I execute what I do for the benefit of my teammates. I'm not going to disagree with that. What I'm going to ask you to do is prioritize it differently. Take care of your agenda and what you need to do for you first. As I've said to you before in other ways, if you don't take care of you first and satisfy your needs, you are ill-prepared to be the best for others. Your ability to optimize your serve and your support of others is going to be not 100% or even beyond 100% if you're not taking care of you. So set your priorities by looking at you first. And that's both when you are planning as well as when you're executing your plan. Make sure you're keeping your priorities in proper perspective, directed towards the prescribed success or prescribed outcomes you have outlined for yourself in your plan. And that's the next category of thinking I want you to take a look at. What are your plans? Now I'm gonna ask you this. When you plan, how far in advance to the actual delivery of a plan are you planning? For some of us, it's like in the moment. They're thinking through things in the moment, maybe even multitasking, which some will agree or disagree. There's a debate about whether multitasking is worthwhile. Some will say it's what I have to do. I don't have a choice. I tend to have my degree of disagreement with that, but the bottom line for plans is planning early enough in advance to execution so that you give yourself a chance to think through the plan or practice. In athletics, be it amateur or professional, the plans are usually created by the coaches. Now, depending on the sport, the athlete might be able to see the plan, the practice schedule, prior to having to execute their role in that practice plan. My point to you is this and that. Regardless of the function you have, be it professional, business, or professional athletics, or amateur athletics, or just doing a casual weekend, just planning a weekend, make sure that you think it through. Now, look, I'm saying this to you because I've experienced these things. I'm not always as successful as I want to be or as I'm going to ask you to be. I'm asking you to think about spending the time in a casual, low pressure scenario, an environment, to make plans that represent the visions that you've created for yourself, the things and people that you want to include in this plan as you take the steps to execute on a daily basis the plans you've created. Now I'm asking you to think about a week at a time. So my guidelines for me is a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, preferably a Friday afternoon after the work is over. Not the best day because you typically don't have a place where you've fully decompressed on a Friday. Or if you think you have, you may have been overserved and your judgment might be a little altered. So I tend to do Saturday mornings or Sunday afternoons to get my plan ready for the next week. And I also tend to think about, as I said earlier, prioritizing me first so that I'm the best for others. Others that I include in my roles on a weekly basis. I have certain roles that I prefer to execute and pay attention to first in my plans, such as being a partner, being a father, being a business owner, being a friend. And in those regards, looking at those roles in making my plans and the goals I have for a week first. Now that doesn't mean that every week, as like a grandfather, for example, I'm not planning something every week as a grandfather. In fact, I'm not probably planning something every week as a father because my kids are grown. But I am planning something every week as a business owner, as a partner, and staying true to that first in all of those roles first before I think about what the needs and desires of others are. Now, let me give you a caution here. If you're an active person like I am, where you want to be physically active, something like crutches and a brace on your leg tends to get in the way of that. So be prepared to adjust and adapt. It's also true that when things get moving fairly quickly, regardless of how great your plans are and the vision you have for executing that plan, be aware that your behavior might be looked at by others in a way that represents you're paying more attention to somebody else than you are the people that are most important to you, that you should be taking care of first. Well, the first one is you. And then those in your roles, like what I mentioned, should be the next ones to be taken care of. Well, when you do that, when you feel that, reflect, take a breath, back up. Because the quality of your completion, the finish line, will have a great influence by whether or not you recognize the speed with which you're trying to execute is maybe too fast. And you're not honoring your priorities as well as you should be because you're not focused on them. The roles are the focused priorities. You are a focused priority before anybody else. So be aware of your position, literally and physically. Where am I at in my progression of my behavior and actions to get to the place I want to get to finish? The quality of the finish you should have thought about during your planning process. And with that finishing, be aware of who are the people and things around you. Now here's why that's important. It's important that when you're going to plan the next week, that you're able to reflect on those points of interest, that awareness you apply to watching yourself, watching others, looking at the execution and delivery of people and things within that process of accomplishing your goals and delivering those outcomes will be beneficial for you to learn about, hey, did I do it well enough to get what I wanted or go beyond? Well, if so, pat yourself on the back. Give yourself that a boy, that a girl, and be successful or relish in the success you've had. But at the same time, if you fell a little short, there was still some success, but you fell a little short, now because of that awareness, you're able to gather that up. Hopefully you do. Write it down, because sometimes I forget things. You may too. Make sure you're reflecting on your finish line and your awareness of what you did during that process to get to that finish line, so that you can use that information for planning the next week. And maybe you're going to pick a Saturday or a Sunday. Hesitate on the Friday, but if it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to get ready to plan for the next week, those are the days that I look at. During that process, I ask myself two questions. What are my priorities? Now remember, priorities will adjust. The degree of one priority one week might get diminished for the next week because you did so well at delivering to the outcomes you prescribed. It doesn't go away necessarily. The priority is still there. The timing with which you address it might change. My goal is to every week look at my priorities and make sure that I position them properly within the next week's worth of activity. Because remember, there are projects that have layers of execution. The first start off of something has influence on the next step and the next step and the next step. So your priorities will change. The degree of emphasis and influence you have with those priorities within the planning process, renewing the priorities and where they sit, and then getting to the finish line and completing what you believed during your plan was the outcome you desired. So setting those priorities are really, really critical. The other part of your priorities is, who are my priorities aligned with? Now I'm saying who are the priorities, but I also would include what things are part of that group of who, because there's people and things that will influence your priorities. Having the right tools to be able to execute your plan and deliver to the priorities you've set for yourself, those goals that you've set. Those involve things and systems that may be actually delivered by people. So you've got many times connections between people and things to be able to bring it to you in a process and plan that really fits your agenda. Now, I want to make a mention of something. You're going back to the beginning process, that Saturday or Sunday when you're planning. It's making sure that the people in particular that are going to be bringing you the things, those tools, those resources, delivering for you systems and methods for you to utilize that may be key for your delivery of the prescribed outcomes, make sure they know it. Be communicative about what your needs are so that they're not surprised. You don't disrupt their plans with a request in a time frame that they didn't expect you to ask for something. Now, that being said, I've got some great examples here of delivery and the consideration you should have when you're executing your plans. And I've kind of set it up for you. There's the people and things that are involved in the execution of your plan. For example, when you're delivering your plan and you're asking others to join you, like you've got a team, it's not just you. And many times the team isn't directly connected with you. You might have support services from different departments. You might have outside vendors. You might have people on the sidelines helping with, the water bottles, the towels. In the sports world, it's usually the managers and the assistant coaches that are many times underappreciated and overutilized. And they deserve a fond pat on the back and recognition. If you're one of those people, in addition to the actual athlete or the executives and team that's delivering the resources that you support, your self-efficacy, how you manage yourself and your emotions during those moments, those competitive moments, those demands on your time, that's what I'm talking about here, which is why I have this wonderful picture of this young person that looks like a feminine person climbing these rocks. This facial expression about, can I do it? I've got the grip. Can I really? So that's a moment in time, perhaps, where they are judging their own self-manage of their emotions. They're maybe questioning for a moment, but at the same time realizing they've prepared well to accomplish this task and go to the next foothold on belay and continue to climb the wall. Self-efficacy is huge in your management of your emotions and managing your plan, continuing to move it forward. And as you do that, make sure that you are properly representing not just yourself, because remember I said you're the first priority, but as you have yourself locked in to representing yourself, make sure that in your personal representation, you now start to enlarge your awareness umbrella and think about the people around you who are also representing you. Maybe it's a team setting, or maybe it's you as an individual performing in a corporate setting, but there are people in other departments that because of your actions will in fact be called upon to support you. And in some cases, in such large corporations, we don't even see their faces. We just know that a switch gets turned on, or a program gets sent, or a confirmation of services has been reported. You have methods. You know that there are people out there supporting you and representing your product and your priorities. But make sure that when you look at it, you're appreciative of the diversity within that representation. First thing is know that they're there. Say thank yous. Show gratitude. And by showing gratitude, you recognize their presence. Even when you don't even have a face with a name. In today's world, we have so many people that may say their name to you, but you never really get a true connection because you don't ever see them. It's through an email or a conference call or a Zoom call, and you really never really connect with them. Even though they might be a live virtual call on Zoom, it's more than just a casual email or phone call, but it's still not the same, at least from my opinion. For many of those youngsters out there that are in those different generational groups, the IY generation, the Z gen, and others, they seem to get it. They take it with ease. I tend to think we need to have opportunity to connect. Physically, eyeball to eyeball, present together to connect, to really get the maximum influence about managing our emotions and sharing our gratitude with others through the process of making our plans. Now, as we do that, identify for yourself when you're getting close to the finish line, when your priorities are set, you made your plan, you're out there executing it, you're looking for, through your awareness of your environment, what do I expect? What are my expectations? Who's accountable with me to help me generate those expectations? So, and that is basically saying, I am generating a focus on quality, that I might be the spark that gets everybody onto that path, but a focus on quality is huge. You want to have outcomes that represent the quality that you've planned for. Now, look, there's no perfection in this world, but the more we plan, set those priorities, identify where you fit first, and then how you gather in everybody else, your expectations need to be realized, should be realized, not must, should be realized if you've shared your expectations to others that you want to hold accountable for the plan that you've generated and the priorities you've set in that plan. It's really a great process, and I many times I'm disappointed in myself when I don't remember how precious the planning process is and how much more diligent I can be. Self-admission, being vulnerable with you right now. I'm not that good at opening it up, sharing, and letting other people know. And I'm really responsible for surprising people unexpectedly, because I get in my own thought. I think, well, they should just know. If they're part of my team, they should just know. No, that's not the case. You need to speak up, even in moments when you are not that confident in being a good speaker. But if you are desiring high quality outcomes, you've got to find methods to share that fit who you are, so that you don't leave people in a position of being surprised unexpectedly. Especially for those people who are really good at what they do. And even more so when you've utilized them in the past and they know that they're good and they know they're a good fit with you. Be grateful for what they do for you, and ask for forgiveness when you goof up, like I've done many times in surprising people. A high quality results typically doesn't have a lot of surprises if you practice the plan and work the plan when it's time to execute. It's the more times that you can create examples of where you represent by being yourself are such strong reinforcements to why people stick with you. Look, there are moments you could be a jerk, over demanding, an asshole. I mean, just flat out. You weren't in a good place. But when you admit it through your representation of that reality, and you're yourself, you're your genuine self, that you then remember, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful you're here, I apologize. You say you're sorry. Genuinely say you're sorry. That is huge representation of being self-efficacy, representing your self-efficacy and managing your emotions, because you are representing yourself in a true way. Now, that being said, the power of your ability to be yourself is also shown in your ability to select those who support what is weak in you. And that's why I say select your resources that fit your plans. Look, the more I can admit and be vulnerable in my admissions that I'm not that good in something, and yet I then bring somebody in who's even better than me, that's huge. That's a strong representation of your quality planning effort. Too many times we plan, or I've seen organizations who have planned things out that only bring on people that must do what you say. They're not free thinkers. They're not going to add to the program. They're not going to certainly be supportive of your weakness, because you can't handle it. You don't want to handle it. I've got to be the leader. I've got to be the top dog. Well, you still are the top dog, especially if it's your money and it's your plan. But the strongest leaders are the ones who give up control, because that's the path to maintaining the power in your plan. let those who are really good at what they do influence your quality outcomes, because they are the resource that fits the plan. You're not perfect. You're not the only one who can get things done. But if you have a plan that you make sure that you select the right pieces, the resources that fit the plan, oh, that's powerful stuff. And then you share the gratitude with those around you in a way that they are recognized appropriately for their skill set. Not only did you empower that plan, but you laid the groundwork for future successes with them as well as with others who may have watched you succeed. In athletics, I call that behavior the intangibles. When plans work beyond their expectations with people that are allowed to deliver what they're good at, boy, that's when you see intangibles just explode. Remember, intangibles many times lay silent and latent until the competitive pressure is so great that it unlocks that intangible with that individual, and they are able to deliver. We're coming into the seasons, right? I'm looking forward to watching Russell Wilson actually take the field and play, not just let his shadow under his eyes and the pads on his shoulders just sit there gaining sweat. I'm being a little sarcastic because last week he came out looking like he's ready to play, didn't play a minute. And that's part of the game in this preseason stuff. I'm hoping that in Buffalo this weekend he's gonna get out and get a few minutes, maybe run a series or so, just to give the fans a way to look at things, especially against a defense like Buffalo. You know, our ones against their ones would be quite interesting to see, at least for one series, right? But you can be assured within the next 3 games of preseason, Russell Wilson will take the field and shake off the shadows of practice and get game ready for our opening game coming up much sooner than you think. The same thing is true for baseball as they go into playoffs. There's a lot of jockeying going around, players that have moved here and there. So in athletics, when I see those kind of things going on, I know that the GMs and the coaches are making plans in getting ready for playoff. Regretfully, that's not the Rockies. Now, that being said, it's still professional athletics. They're making plans, or they should be making plans for how's the season going to end? What's our strategy for staffing? What's our strategy for off-season? Getting that tone set and get those plans polished up so that they're ready to be executed when we get into the off-season and going down into Arizona for spring ball. There's lots of different versions of plans in the professional athletics arena. But in corporate America, planning should be a constant. There is no real off time. If there is off time, it's more on an individual perspective of taking time for yourself to renew and recharge. So getting back to our planning topic today, I've made a plan today to talk a little bit about what's coming. We haven't had a guest on in a while, somewhat by design. Also somewhat designed by injury. I'm really trying to stay focused on taking care of myself, so I come through this in a really good way. I do not want to repeat this, but I do want to be out there active and strong and doing the things that makes me feel good. So with that being said, we've got some great competitors going to be on our broadcast in the next few weeks. We've got a 78-year-old mountain biker who's really a competitor. I mean, a kick-ass competitor that puts people half her age to shame as regards to her attitude. We've got her ready to confirm her. I haven't got it fully booked yet, but we've got that ready to be confirmed. We're going to bring some golfers on to talk about, you know, the FedEx Cup is out there. A number of different tournaments are going on. They had to qualify. There's some great stuff going on this weekend. But I want to talk to Hal Sutton, get Hal on the show and talk about that and about, you know, the plans that these athletes have to make. There's some surprises about some professional golfers that didn't make the FedEx Cup. Kind of want to talk about that and where that mindset is at. And then we're going to talk a little bit about football. see if we can get some special guests on the show to talk about football. I'd love to get Joel Dreesen back on the show. Haven't had him on the show for a while. I know he's loving being a dad and working his family and having fun with that. He was recently motivating young athletes down there in I think it was the high school. It's down by Colorado Springs, North Colorado Springs. I'll remember. They're the Mustangs, I believe. But I don't remember the high school is. But at any rate, we're going to try to get Joel on, see if he can give us some motivation as we come into the NCAA start of the season for colleges. As you may know, Joel Dreesen is a CSU grad, go Rams, during the times when they were winning some bowl games. And then every time I think about this, I start to ache a little bit, because Joel was at, when we went out to play Boston University, the CSU Rams played Boston University, there wasn't a lot of people predicting that the CSU Rams were going to have a win against the Boston University at Boston. And they, at the time, were a ranked team. And we had a run. I think we had a 4-game win run. People were just kind of wondering, who are we? Was this a fluke or not? And Joel came out to the game, and I'm walking off the field after most of the celebration as we won the game was happening. I was walking off the field, and I see Joel coming from the stadium entrance to the locker room across the field, and he started jogging towards me and just lifted me up in a bear hug that literally took my breath away. Strong young man, and always loved the emotional output that he has. I can only imagine when he was in his 20s what that was like on the college football field or in the locker room with Joel. I like to bottle that and bring it to every game, every individual athlete I work with, and give them a sampling of it and see if they can use that for their own benefit. So that's my little break for right now to talk about what's coming up in the future for us here at 360 Performance on wonderful streaming KUHS Denver, right here, every week, every day of every week. So that's a lead into my take a moment to reflect as I share with you. I don't know if I'm going to ever change the picture. This is the Kona Inn. This is looking out from the restaurant at the bay in Kona, Hawaii. It's just a wonderful view. The sunset is just picturesque. And I took that picture. It's not a postcard. I took that picture. My reflection is about just taking a breath every once in a while. Sometimes the breath doesn't have to take a long time to absorb the feeling that's necessary to get your mind right, get it anchored within that physical structure we call our body, and make sure that everything's pumping and running and aligned properly to give you the best opportunity to be your best, live your best day. So as I say that, a bridge right back into what we're talking about today. That's time management, beginning with the end in mind. Being mindful of what it takes to do that. What is the process? As you sit down on that day of the week, on the weekend, where you're going to get ready to plan for your next week, what does that take? What are some steps that I can offer you to give you guidance about that process? Well, here you go. Here are some things about time management that you need to be aware of. And the first one is figure out what your end in mind is. What is it you want? Now remember, in the planning process, there could be multiple components of that end in mind. There could be an end in mind on each role you have. For me, it could be, I could have an end in mind next week about being a spouse. Yes, I do. Starting on Sunday, we've got some plans. I got to make plans for that, participate in that. Even in my limited and diminished capacity, I have an end in mind in all of the roles that make up my schedule for next week. You should have those same kinds of thoughts. What's my end in mind? What's it look like? What's my vision of what I want? The outcomes, the quality of that outcome. Being mindful of that and aware of that, and depending on the complexity and energy, will determine how many times you reflect. Take a breath and renew yourself in that moment as you think about each end in mind. And as you grab that end in mind in your brain and get a vision of that, the multiple components of each end in mind for the roles that you have, you're going to have specific goals for that. For example, I have numerous Zoom calls next week that I want to make sure what my role is, what I'm trying to accomplish in each one of those calls. And that's different than the goals, because in some of those roles, I'm a coach. In others of those roles, I'm an advisor. So what are my goals in those specific roles for each of those calls? Now, for me lately, I've had to write more things down. Not a bad thing. In fact, it's essential. I need to do more of that, stay on top of it. So make sure that you practice these components. If you read it, say it, and write it, you have a higher likelihood of not only engaging yourself in the moment, but being really targeted, really focused in your engagement. When you write down, in this case, what are the roles and goals, maybe I say it out loud, talk about it, or say it to yourself, and you've written it down. See it, say it, write it. See it, visioning it, say it, and write it down. Now, say it could be in your mind, quietly, self-talk, that positive self-talk that I share with athletes, I share with executives too. But positive self-talk, be wrapped around that, and make sure that you can actually see it happening. That's essential to your time management, coming from the end in mind and bringing it back. The other piece, while you're looking at your role, make sure you remember it's all about you. You've got to be good for you before you can be good for someone else. So if you're working with a team, and maybe you're the one making the plans or participating in creating the plan, make sure you know what your specific role is and that what you are getting out of it. What outcomes do you want to have out of that for you? You're mindful of that. You're aware of who are the participants and the resources that are necessary to make that happen, so that you're satisfied with thinking about, it's all about me. Not in a selfish way, but in a self-aware, focused way to the plan. This is the key part about working the plan. Making the plan is wonderful. Write it down, got it all checklist, I got a sheet, I got a form, blah, blah, blah. I can make it happen. But the key is taking action and knowing where you fit, that where it is all about you. That's hugely important for you to then be able to share your expectations. Look, if you don't have a clear understanding where you fit, how are you going to come up with expectations for others to support you? That's a reality from experience and failure within those experiences. Make sure you share your plan. As I told you earlier, I was a little vulnerable with you. I don't always do a good job of that. I have for years and years. If I can't get it done, who can? And that's caused a little bit of pushback for me, because I've got to release that and let others participate, especially if I've brought them in, I've asked them to participate with me. I've got to share my expectations. And recently, I realized that not everybody has the same communication devices that are their first preference, like texting. I don't text as my first choice of communication. Other people do. I need to know that more and realize that more often. And the method I used to share my expectation, it would be helpful, as I've learned recently, to use the method that is most often looked at by the people I'm communicating with. So texting, and this was that example for me, I need to text with those people because they'll respond quicker. Now, that means I might be doing multiple layers of communication. I might be sending an email and a text, and maybe even a phone call with a voice message. Or it might be an Instagram message or a Facebook message, and not just a text message. I need to know. So sharing my expectations within the methods that are familiar and desired by others is probably a pretty good thing to do. Yeah, that's being mindful on my part. Keep that in mind when you're taking a look at your friends and colleagues, so that once you do things for you. So remember, it's all about you. But in that all about you moment, you're also thinking about, I want good communications. That's about me. All right, then take the next step. figure out what the desired communication modality is for those colleagues and friends and associates that they use. So you're using it to get them to respond to your expectations and your desires. But share your expectations to start it all off with. And this is, look at this word is so easily stated too often, and we've got to define it. You've got, you know, when we talk about sharing expectations, what's your expectation for a finish? Because if you don't share the expectation of how you want to finish, what is the performance you expect that's necessary to get the desired results? Finish isn't just a word to just let it sit out there. It's a word that needs some color, some shape, some form that you share with other people so they get an idea. Oh, you want me to break the tape, not just touch it? Oh, I see, because that defines the finish, right? If I break the tape, I truly did finish. It's not good enough just to see the finish. I have to go through it, go past it. Here's a great example. For those of you who have ever done martial arts and broken any boards, which I've broken a few, when they first teach kids to do that with the punching techniques, it's the setup, the skill of the punches, depending on what part of your body you're using. You know, a fist punch has one way, elbow strike, kicking, down, you know, heel strike, whatever the case may be, all has different methods to get to that point of touching the board and then breaking the board. But every one of those body parts that you're going to use to break that board will finish the same way. They'll finish with a vision of through the board, not to the board, through the board. Now, I'm not going to ignore the fact that for some who had the thought that was to the board, they still may have broken the board. That's not a consistent behavior. You don't have a high level, you should not have a high level of expectation that with that attitude, you will break the board every single time. Consistency of the finish, which is why I'm using the martial arts example, because it's so precise and crisp and simple. The board is here, you are here, the holder is there. Go through the board. Punch to the holder. Punch to the goal in the role that you assume to make that happen. That's a mindful approach to finishing the plans that you set for yourself to get it done. In sharing your expectation with you as the primary focus so that your roles and goals are properly aligned in your plan towards that end in mind, giving you a more likely than not expectation that you will in fact finish through the board. That's such great stuff. Now, the reality about life is that there is no perfection. There can be a feeling of perfection that you did what you decided to do and it got you the results you wanted at or above the outcomes you predicted to happen. But perfection is every single time you do it. It doesn't always happen. Continue the planning process. Continue visioning with your end in mind so that you give yourself a setup, a strategy, and methods that most likely than not will come as close, or maybe on some occasions beyond, your expectations of what the outcome should look like when you finish. But the feeling is awesome. The championship finish, even if it's just a moment, even if it's just breaking that one board, you feel it inside for that one moment, that championship finish, because you created it. You shared a part of you with expectations for others to hold that board for you so that you could have the more likely than not outcome of breaking through the board. It's good stuff. Now here's a good quote. I wanted to leave you with this quote because I thought it was fitting for where we've come so far for this morning. And it's a quote from Jennifer Aniston. And she says, "I always say, don't make plans, make options." Now, I'm not disagreeing with Jennifer, but I feel this quote is appropriate because it's a perspective that expands beyond just the plan. Because when you make plans and you check boxes, I want this outcome, I want this outcome, we've got to be aware of that and aware of that, that's all important stuff. That's just the plan. To Jennifer's quote, the options to the plan are considering what if. If I get that, what happens? Because it could cause us to go on a whole other track within the plan. That's just as important of an outcome as recognizing and being aware of the parts of the plan that didn't go as far as you'd like it to. Remember I said earlier that you've got this plan, it delivers results, some are going to be on target, some are going to be short of the target, and some are going to be beyond the target. To Jennifer's quote, if I don't think about the options, the opportunity, the what ifs in the plan that I made, the plan is just flat. Not that it's bad, but it's just one-dimensional. It doesn't recognize the realities of life is multidimensional, lots of curves, lots of dimensions to it. If you're not open to the options that are possible, you're ignoring the realities of life, that there's all these possibilities. My hope is that's where Jennifer's quote came from for her. And if it didn't, Jennifer, we should talk. Just saying, I could add to the, because as I put on a slide here, the priorities set for you first, just for you, become the roadmap for the success of others. You are a powerful force in your own plan. When you make plans using some of what I've shared with you today, you become an example through your actions to those that you've brought into your plan with you, that you expect things from them. But if there's anybody looking at what you're doing, you become an example to them that it's possible. It could be a little girl or a little boy watching on the sidelines. It could be a new rookie coming into your office for the first job they've ever had out of college that makes them a professional. Not that they didn't have a job before, they paid the money, but this is a career. And they're watching you and your behavior in this setting. And they're wondering, are you creating options or are you just making plans? What is it about what you do that's going to draw the attention of others? Now look, I'm not asking you to look over your shoulder to see if anybody's following you, because that's not what true leaders do. True leaders make plans with no expectation that anybody's going to follow them. Because in that moment, when they start the plan, it is truly all about them and what their skills are and how good they are. Because if they don't get good for them, they can't be good for others. And then they'll bring them in. Because a true leader, in making their plans that's focused on them, they also, once that's done and that's completed, they then include others. They share expectations. They are communicative in what they need to have done. And they truly define what the finish line looks like. It's not just to the board, it's through the board. That's what's exciting about, for me anyway, this Jennifer Aniston quote. Now, as I say that and take a brief pause, I want to remind everybody to look around your world, and where is the love and the feeling of positive efforts? Discover those things, and remember who the people are and the things that they brought with them to share with you, and the influence it had on your plans, and the expectations you had for them. Because life, as I said earlier, is not perfect. Strive for perfection, as my grandfather would say. If you strive for this cherry on the top of the sundae, the worst that happens is you fall in the whipped cream. Strive for that, but know that there's going to be adversity. There's going to be moments that you're going to have to recognize very quickly in some cases what the actions are to adjust and adapt to what you've just faced. In some cases, the extremes are tragedy. And the memories of others are all you have left. Feel blessed in that moment. But remember that the passion, the positivity, and the love that you feel never goes away. In those moments, you need to remember those who have brought to you an effort to compete that maybe pushes you to level up, or maybe you're the one that sets the plan that gives them the opportunity to level up in support of your plan. Be part of those memories. Like I'm a part of memories here every Friday. and bringing to you methods and strategies to help you be the most productive you can be. Now, we share that every weekend. I take the show today. This is a live show. We polish it up a little bit. We put it out on the platforms of Spotify, Apple, Google, whatever's your favorite one. The key for me is type in 360 performance, 360 performance, and check it out. My favorite place to land is on Spotify. I love that platform, but we're on many of them. We're in now, guess what? 11 countries. Bumped up. I don't know how many people. Could be one. I don't know. I'm just excited that I'm more than just footprinting here in the United States. But by you doing that, you get involved. You make me grateful for your opportunity, the opportunity to share with you, and grateful to you for listening to us share with you what we can, that you may carry on to a whole nother level. Please share that with us in your getting involved moment. Check us out on our website, 360 Mindset, and leave us a comment. Share your thoughts about what you think about what we've said, good or bad. I learn from both. I talk about error and failure all the time. It's a great moment to learn and expand. Share your positive thoughts as guidance for me to be better at what I do, so that when I make my plans and I take my actions, I can set expectations that I'll share later, and also with the wonderful team here at KUHS Denver, and the support that they give me here at 360 Performance. It's an awesome place to be, to hang out. We're streaming on, and look, share, even go to the KUHS website, share with us, tell us what we need to do to make it better for you. If you have comments about 360 Performance, please by all means share that, or share through the platforms I use with Spotify, Google, and Apple. You can share comments with me on that. I put some surveys on those sometimes, so please participate in that. Would love to hear from you. Love to hear more about what you have to say about your expectations of me. 360 Performance, I'm Coach Whiteman, or often enough, I'm still not used to it yet. Dr. Whiteman. I prefer Coach in most cases, but lately I'm getting better and better at feeling comfortable about being called Dr. Whiteman. I'm going to go out and see the Mavericks next week out there in Grand Junction, Colorado, Colorado Mesa University. You guys have a great rest of the week and a wonderful weekend. Be safe out there, everybody. Take care of yourself. It's been a pleasure. Have a great day today, would you?